Good afternoon, everyone. It is 12 o'clock on the dreary Thursday afternoon here in Southeast Michigan. Boy, what a day, what a difference a day makes. That's kind of like the mortgage business. If you think of that oxymoron, you just kind of got to wait and sometimes be patient when you're thinking about buying a home. And I am super excited to welcome you to today's call. My name is Dan Sugg. I am the Chief Mortgage Lending Officer here at Michigan First Credit Union. My responsibility is Michigan First Mortgage. I sit in Southeast Michigan, but we serve the entire state. And we are super excited to have a couple of speakers from the West Side today. And we are going to be talking about program options. So loan options, if you will, and down payment options, all kind of stuff for the first time home buyer. And if you think about our market today, I know that in 2024, almost 60% of our business was first-time home buyer as a credit union. So certainly helping people get into homes. So we'll be discussing those. And the bulk of our call today, providing you the tips and tricks, certainly is what our subject matter experts will give you. And then we'll use the end of our time for closing remarks. And if we have time, some question and answers from our guests. And if you would please remember to leave your line on mute and your video off, because that helps us with performance, call performance. And please put your questions in the group chat box. Then we have Zareen Torrey, one of our leaders here at Michigan First, that will be managing that and getting those questions answered. And if I see one, I'll definitely get it into our call today. So without further ado, you've heard me talk enough. Let's talk to Ryan. Ryan Bruner is a loan officer here at Michigan First Mortgage. And Ryan is going to share a little bit about himself and what he does to help our members and a little bit of what he enjoys. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming on. As Dan said, my name is Ryan Bruner. I'm a mortgage loan officer here with Michigan First Credit Union. I've been in the business for about 10 years now. Banking has been my career pretty much my entire adult life. I really enjoy helping first-time home buyers, so that's a part of why I wanted to be on the call today. When I was a first-time home buyer, I was nervous. I worked in mortgages, and even being in the business, going through the process, I can relate to a lot of those feelings, the excitement, the nerves, and ultimately how good it feels when you buy your first home. There's almost no better feeling than that. So I'm really excited to share some programs today. A little bit about myself. I live in West Michigan near the Kalamazoo area. It's a little south of Grand Rapids. I have two daughters, Peyton and Haley. They are 12 and 4. So that keeps me busy when I'm not doing mortgages. Pretty much all of my free time spent with them. And that's about it.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate getting to know you a little bit better, certainly. And it is refreshing to see young people in their career that are homeowners and looking to help others. So thank you for joining today. Our other guest today is Aubrey Schlickland. Aubrey is also on the West Side, but she'll talk to you about the markets she serves. But I'm super excited to hear from Aubrey, as she also, I believe, just became a homeowner. I know you just moved, but I would love to hear a little bit about yourself and what you bring to our membership. So Aubrey, take it away.
Yeah, thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Aubrey Schlickland. I am a licensed real estate agent. I've worked with Grand River Realty for just over 2 years now. And my primary clientele and focus is first-time home buyers. It kind of happened naturally for me, just people my age and my friend group, my circle, are all at that age where we're all starting to think about buying a home and becoming first-time home buyers. Like you just said, I just became a first-time home buyer myself. So not only have I gone through, the professional side of it, but I experienced the emotional side and can relate to it a lot more or a lot better, I think, having gone through it myself now. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Aubrey. And to echo the comments of our two subject matter experts today, I'm not young. I'm definitely in a different generation than these two fine folks. But I will tell you, even when I bought the home that I'm in now, which I've been in for many years, it was my third home. And I tell this story all the time. I was in the business for a long time, And I was still nervous at the closing, so even though I understood all of the things that was happening, I was nervous in more of a responsory role, but certainly it can be very emotional. And that was a great word, Aubrey, to describe the transaction. And we take all of that and we close it if we do it right, in a 30-day time frame. So it's okay to those people looking to buy a home. It's okay to freak out. It happens. And that's why you need experts that have gone through this before. So I'm going to start with Ryan today. So Ryan, my first question for you is, you know, certainly buying a home and thinking about that is the actual end product. But what do I got to do before that? Like, I know I've heard the term pre-approved. How do I get pre-approved, and how long does that take? What does that process look like?
Sure, that's a good question. So the first step in buying a home is to work with a mortgage lender, Michigan First Credit Union, and see where you're at. We will do a pre-approval. So part of that process is we collect your information. We do a credit pull to see what your credit score is, look at your income, and we review your documentation. So everything when you get a mortgage, we verify. So it's a in-depth process, but we want to know that when you find the home that you love, you can get it. You are pre-approved, you qualify. We do all of the work on the front end so that when it comes time to find your dream home, you don't have to worry about those things and we can have a smooth closing. So when you're ready to buy, first step, work with me, Michigan First Credit Union, to get pre-approved, see where you're at. And then we will collect the documentation. Once we pre-approve you, that gives you, I see it as kind of like a permission slip to go look at some homes. Most times to look at homes, access them, make an offer, you will need that pre-approval letter anyway. So it's a good idea to be prepared. And I always recommend do that ahead of time. You don't want to wait until you find your dream home to get a pre-approval started. You want to do that ideally a few months before you start shopping. You want to see where you're at, make sure you're prepared. If there is anything you need to work on, give yourself some time, because when that home comes on the market, we still see some inventory shortage. There are still offers out there. So you want to be as prepared as possible when the time comes.
Yeah, there's no, the time to take to get a pre-approval could be 1 hour,
Right.
but there's no definition to it certainly only expires when the credit report expires, which in most cases are 120 days. You'd have to refresh your credit, but it's never too soon to certainly start and get an idea on that piece. And I guess, Aubrey, if I switch to you real quick, there's no sense getting in a car looking for a house until you know how much you can afford, right? I mean, how do
Right,
you
exactly.
deal with that when somebody calls you?
Right. Well, I won't usually show people homes until they show me the pre-approval, because not only does it not make sense, but then they could be setting unrealistic expectations for themselves. And,
Right.
it's an emotional process, so you don't want to start by doing that. So yeah, I definitely look for pre-approval before we start making the appointments and going into homes, and so we can have a realistic expectation of, what they can afford and what we're actually going to be looking at there.
Yeah. You certainly never want to go into a real estate transaction and legally obligate yourself without knowing that you can execute and close on a loan, because there are financial obligations that if you don't perform in that contract. So certainly let's get that stressful stuff out of the way before you even start the stressful part of looking for a home, or potentially. So, all
Exactly.
right. So Aubrey, if I could, tell me a little bit about what you think the real estate market looks like in your area today. What's going on for the first time home buyer?
Right. Well, I think it looks a lot different than it did about a year ago. A year ago in the spring, when I was looking with some first-time home buyers, we were up against, 17 other offers, and it was highly competitive and it was a crazy market. Not to say it's not a crazy market still, but I do think that it has calmed down quite a bit. My past few transactions, we've been able to get a home at list price. Not saying we're not being competitive in other areas, but we're not having to go super far above in list price in order to outcompete other people. I do think that it's a really great time to start looking for a home. I was able to personally get my house for list price. We toured the home. I loved it. I wrote an offer within 2 hours and got it accepted within 5. So, and that was for list price. So I think
Yeah.
now is a great time to be looking.
even more reason to be prepared in this market to act once you find something.
Oh
'Cause
yeah, absolutely. You have
you
to,
def
if you want to buy a house, then you should be ready to strike. Sometimes it does take time and you're gonna have a couple offers put in, it's not, my situation is not very common where you get the first house that you write an
yeah,
offer in on. It usually you'll have to write quite a few before you get the house that, you're meant to be in. But you gotta be prepared, and, be like, if you like that house, write an offer on it.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen, as you guys can imagine, over my time in this mortgage industry, I've seen many different real estate economies. And in today's economy, certainly being ready and having the right team members is uber important, super, super uber important. And the reason being is that, and maybe Aubrey, I don't know you all that well, but the right realtor can make a difference in the offer scenario, and certainly making sure that their tenaciousness and getting that offer accepted and the language that they use certainly can help expedite your offer getting accepted. So it sounds like you're a pretty good negotiator, at least on your own behalf. I assume you do that for your clients too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And
awesome.
something that the listing agent actually said when I wrote the offer in on my house was, we like how quickly you worked. So
Yeah,
you think of that too with the the listing agent, the other agent, they want to see that you want that house and that your
yeah.
goal is to get it to the closing table.
Time matters. That's absolutely right.
Mhm.
So Ryan, back to you a little bit. It is a crowded field today, as Aubrey just mentioned, for first-time home buyers. A lot of our business is still first-time home buyers. So what are some of the first-time home buyer programs out there that we can talk about that we should be learning about, maybe even before we call our loan officer? What should we be familiarizing ourselves with?
Sure, that's kind of the exciting stuff that we have to offer. So there are a few different first-time homebuyer programs. Starting off, um, we have a conventional mortgage that's you're looking at about 3% down. Um, on top of that, we have a lot of down payment assistance programs, and that's what people tend to get pretty excited about. We partner with Mishta, so we offer a lot of loans through Mishta. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great program resource to look at. They have homebuyer education courses that I recommend taking. It will be required if you go through their program. But between that, we have anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 in down payment assistance for a lot of first-time home buyers. We have another program that's coming live on April 15th called Launch that offers $20,000 to first-time home buyers. There are some qualifications with these loans. There are some income restrictions and different parameters that we look at, but those are a couple of the really exciting programs that we offer right now.
Yeah, and a lot of those are in association with, well, certainly launches with the Federal Home Loan Bank, which we are a member of, and is a pretty limited distribution in the markets that they serve. So not every lender can do those. And I bring that up only because you should be asking these questions, whether you're currently pre-approved or looking to get pre-approved, about what you can and cannot afford. And the easiest way to start there is with your loan officer, certainly finding out about that. So that's interesting. And we are super excited for the spring home buying season because there's still a number of federal opportunities to get some down payment assistance. I think last year, 1.4 million at Michigan First alone, we were able to help members achieve for their down payment, which was pretty cool. So, all right, Aubrey, I'm coming back to you. So I hear this term a lot, and I want to just get it out there so the first time homebuyers understand what's an earnest money deposit. And is that a barrier for me getting a house? Like what is that?
So an earnest money deposit, also known as an EMD, it's basically a good faith deposit. So after we get an offer accepted for your home, we have 72 hours for us to send a portion of the total price of the house value to escrow, which is usually through a title company, a third party that's going to hold it until we get to the closing table. But basically, I always do 2% of whatever the total home value is, but it's just showing like I said, it's good faith, like we're gonna get it there, we have the capital, and then that money actually comes out of what you'll owe at the closing table. So it's not in addition to, it'll be like a little bit of a discount almost once you actually get to the
Right.
closing table a month later. But yeah, that's just to show that you're in it, you're serious, we're making money moves here.
Yeah. And that's certainly, if you go back to the pre-approval stage and making sure you can afford the loan, that's the promise you're giving, the deposit or the promise you're giving along with a legal contract to the seller saying, hey, I got you. Here's my deposit. I'm good to go. And certainly showing your willingness to buy their house. So should you not perform in that contract, that's the money that becomes available to the seller to pull their home off the market, or could be. So certainly you want to be ready in that piece. We're going to stick with Aubrey one more. Talk a little bit about home inspections. So first of all, should you be getting home inspections in this market? And then second, if I do get one and something comes up, what do I do? Like, how does that work?
Right. Well, I always suggest getting a home inspection. You want to know what's going on with the house. There could be some things that, I'm not an inspector. I don't know, I'm not a builder. I don't know a whole lot about homes and what you should be looking for, to a certain extent. So you definitely should be getting one because you want to know what you're getting into and that you're making a good investment. However, you can use it as a bargaining chip. And, a year ago, more so when it was a little bit crazier, like I had said previously, we definitely had some offers where we waived inspections, and that can be used as a negotiation tactic. But yeah, basically the way that it'll work is you'll write in an inspection period. So I typically, before I even write an offer, is I will check to see if when my inspector is available so that we can have the shortest inspection period possible, because sellers like to see that. But then basically within that inspection period, we'll have the inspector come in, they'll look at all the different things, and there's a couple different options for inspections too. So, you can check for radon, you can do a sewer scope. Those are in addition to just a general inspection. But yeah, so they'll write you a report, send you a report back. We'll scour it and see if there's anything that's super, major or red flag. And then if we're still within that inspection period, which we will be because I'll write it so that we are, we can release the contract basically and say, never mind, there's too much going on. We don't want to continue with this transaction, or we can make further negotiations at that point and be like, if A happens, then we'll continue. And, we have some negotiation room within that inspection period still.
So to use an example, like if they scope the sewer drain and they seen tree roots in there, say, hey, you need to have that cleaned out. There's going to be a sewer backup, but that's going to cost $1,000. You could say to the seller, well, hey, if you fix that, we'll continue, or give us a concession, we'll move on.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. So certainly, especially if you're buying a home that's 50, 60, 70 years old, a lot can happen in those years. And your current homeowner that you're buying from may not have lived there all that long, and they might not know the things that were going on. So
Right.
awesome advice. All right, Ryan, back to you. Another hard-hitting question for you here.
Right.
What let's see, which one? Okay. How do I know which programs I qualify for? You mentioned some income restrictions. Well, you had to have income to get a loan. So how does this work? Like, what are my resources, or what should I do to figure this out?
So I would say the first step is to give us a call. Let's start the process and get your information. The different programs that we offer, they can vary depending on your credit score, your income level, your household size. There's a lot of factors that go into these different programs, and that's what's great about us offering so many, because we can work to fit you into the box that makes the most sense and benefits you the most. So everybody's situation is different, and that's important. That's why we can't give just a blanket answer of, hey, everybody, you get this program. There's different requirements for different programs, and then your situation may be unique, or you might qualify for something that your friend may not. So it just depends on your situation. To know what you qualify for, I would start with the pre-approval process. That's what we do. So when I take an application, my job is to go through and look at everything we offer and see how each program would benefit you as the borrower, and also make sure that you qualify for it. So if you want to know what you qualify for, I would reach out, let us learn your situation, kind of go through the process, and then we'll let you know. So I would tell you, hey, if you want to, we have this program coming out in a month, you qualify for it, everything looks good, I think this makes the most sense, here's what your payment should look like in your price range, and we would go from there.
Yeah. And as a a state chartered but federally examined credit union, we have access to both Fannie and Freddie, which are the two largest buyers of private mortgages today in the world. And they certainly have a number of first-time homebuyer programs. We also have options at FHA, USDA. A lot of people don't know about USDA, especially in most areas of our state that is available. And we have programs up to zero down in some of those. So certainly looking at all of your options and considering that. And if you're talking to somebody about getting a mortgage and they aren't familiar with all of the programs that are available, make that next call. Reach out to Ryan and certainly learn about all the things we have for you and available in buying a home. So great points, Ryan. And if you think about some of those programs, is there a minimum credit score I need to get a mortgage? I mean, what should I be looking at again, like to see if it's even feasible?
Yeah, so technically there is not a minimum credit score to get a mortgage depending on the situation. However, you need credit score your credit to be at a certain level for different programs. So just to go through as an example, an FHA loan with 3.5% down would require a 580 credit score if you had 3.5% down minimum. To go with the MISHDA, which MISHDA has some great programs. They have a $10,000 down payment assistance, and they also have a $25,000 down payment assistance for first generation home buyers. You need a 640 to do MISHDA. For our launch program that's coming out that has 20,000 down, again, you would need to qualify for a loan, so you'd be looking at the 580 range. But really, the benefit of getting pre-approved and knowing where you stand is we can work on building your credit. As your credit increases, you qualify for more programs. So that's what I try to explain when I go through the process. You can get a mortgage with a lower credit score in some situations. We have to look at the full application, make sure, we can do it. But as you work on your credit and you increase it, you're going to qualify for more. So I always encourage home buyers when they're starting the process to reach out sooner rather than later, because the difference of 50 points in your credit score, if we can work on that over 6 months, that's thousands, that's tens of thousands of dollars sometimes over the course of a mortgage. So it's incredibly important to know where you stand if you plan on buying a home in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, in home ownership is, it was once said, and I'm quoting, that home ownership is a privilege, not a right. And it's not like everyone is excluded to earning or you have to be privileged. It's that you earn that. And the more work you put into your scenario prior to getting that home, the more successful you're going to be as a homeowner. And certainly it is a journey and it's not a sprint. And you want to make sure that when you make that 30-year promise to make your payment, that it is a feasible situation for you. So certainly great advice from Ryan there. So Aubrey, we've got a couple minutes left. So let's go back to, we just talked about a bunch of different programs for him or for Ryan and getting our mortgage and credit scores. So how do you handle the structuring your offer based on whether it's FHA or USDA or I'm putting 10% down? How do you handle all that? Does it all look the same or are they different?
So the only two that I really typically see are the FHA and then the conventional. So conventional, there's going to be a little bit more of a preferential option for when we're writing an offer. It's a little bit more of an aggressive option. So like with FHA, the only issue is that the appraisal is a little bit more intense. So I feel like the appraisals are a little bit more like an inspection. Sometimes they care about like paint chipping and handrails and stuff like that. So for an FHA, if the home is a little bit in worse condition, I might not suggest that we really go for that one because we can always try, obviously, but the house needs to meet certain standards for an FHA, where conventional you have a little bit more wiggle room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's gotten I don't know that I say it's gotten better over time. It's certainly gotten more evolved, where we don't see as many issues as we used to. And yes, FHA has that connotation that the appraisal is a little, to use your term, a little more intense. A lot of times what we see is that prior to those selections of property, people are doing the work now. They know what to expect and certainly get in there. And FHA always cares about peeling paint. It's not sometimes, they always care about peeling paint. So definitely get that paint tightened up. So, well, we've done it again. We've wasted another 25 minutes together, and it goes so fast every single time. So I certainly appreciate you guys coming. But before we get away, there are some tips and tricks that we want to get to for each of you to make sure that you have our members take away what they should from this call and you feel is important for them. So I started with Ryan on the questions, so I'll start with Aubrey on the tips. So Aubrey, what are the 3 things you want our members to take away?
Yeah, definitely make sure that you have the pre-approval first before we start searching for your dream home, because we want to set realistic expectations. Like I just said, it's an emotional process once you start, looking, you imagine your life in these homes and everything. So we want to make sure we're starting up high there. And then, yeah, when I start interviewing people and they interview me as well for this process, I want to make sure that you guys know what your wants and your needs are. So those are 2 different things. We
Right.
might not be able to get everything on your want list, but we can probably get everything on your need list. And then there's a balance, right? So understand that, but the process of buying home takes time. It could take us months of searching, but it also could be we find the one you like and we get that offer accepted that day. So it really depends, but you should be prepared to spend a little bit of time looking for a house and putting multiple offers in. It is a process.
Yeah, super important. I love that reference to wants and needs. I want a mansion, but I really need a
Right.
roof over my head is kind of the 2 alternatives, right? So, well, great points. Ryan, from your perspective, what are your 3 things?
Yeah, so these are very important things that I see come up, and I feel like it's important to go over. So when you start the home buying process and you get pre-approved, it's important to understand that pre-approval is based on the information in the application that we have. And if anything changes after that, we will have to revisit the pre-approval. So with that being said, try not to make large purchases. Spend your money if you have it saved. You want to keep that. Ideally, just keep it in your savings account here while you're looking for a home. Don't make large purchases. Don't go out and buy a car, because if you buy a car, we have to now include that car payment in your debt ratios, and that can throw off the pre-approval, which wouldn't be fun if 2 months later you come to me and you found a house, but you bought a car in the meantime. Now we can't do the mortgage potentially. Be prepared. We went over that a little bit. I really think it's important to have a plan ahead of time. Sometimes people find a house in 2 days. Sometimes it takes them 2 years. So the sooner you get started, the sooner you can work on anything that needs to be worked on, or just know where you stand. And we can go from there. And then also, just a tip, doesn't really have to do with mortgage as much, but I do see it over the years. Create a budget for the additional cost of home ownership. If you get an inspection, look at that inspection and see what's going to be coming up in the next couple of years that we're going to have to pay for, because it will happen. There will be expenses. It's not, I hear a lot of times that, my mortgage payment could be cheaper than my rent, but the mortgage payment that has additional costs that go into it. So I think it's important to put yourself in a good position and understand that going into buying a home.
Yeah, and the cost of the repairs just keep climbing. So
Yes.
definitely being prepared is super smart. So I love that. And the B word, budget, that's always a hard one, but nail that budget down. Starbucks is $4 or $5 a day. It used to be $2 a day. Now it's $4 or $5 a day. So that sometimes can help you be the difference between a successful homeowner or a homeowner in general. So all right, we're here to help you. Certainly, any questions about this series, this homebuyer webinar series that we've been doing for years now, you can reach us at info@michiganfirstmortgage.com. If you want to apply on our website, you certainly can go to michiganfirst.com/mortgage to see an entire list of our loan officers. There's a number there for 800 number there that is open. It never closes, and you can speak to somebody about one of our mortgages. More importantly, you can call Ryan directly. There's his phone number and his email address and his NMLS number. So if you want to check him out, but Ryan is available for you. I won't say 24 hours a day, but Ryan, really anytime
Pretty
you want to reach
much,
out.
pretty much
So
24
yeah,
hours a day and weekends. I understand people work, so
yeah,
if weekends work best for you, don't hesitate to call me.
yeah. That's when we get business done. And Aubrey's information is there. Aubrey Schicklin is there, and her phone number, and then of course her contact information. And Aubrey, I know you're working weekends right now, so it's almost
yeah.
a crunch time for these
Yeah,
two.
I'm a night owl as well. So whenever I would prefer text or email. I get a ton of spam calls, so I might not answer in the first go.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, and I want to thank you both for coming today. And one last slide here. So we do own an insurance company, Michigan First Insurance Agency. They do have you covered. We can get up to 40 different insurers to look at your cost savings and coverage. So when looking for your first home or your car or life insurance of any of those products, we certainly can help. So thank you, Aubrey. Thank you, Ryan, for attending today's call. You've been a delight to have on the call. And thank you all for attending. And let's pray for more sun. Yesterday was beautiful. Today, not so much. But thank you all and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan.